Hey everybody, so here's where we're at with the 240 SS. I'm happy because it's coming together nicely, not because it's running yet. It's not running yet, but we'll be running soon. We've got the car to start, we've got it to crank, but we can't actually let it sit in idle yet because we don't have a MAF sensor. Actually, we have a sensor, we just don't have a place to put it. See where that red plastic guy is right here? There should be a tube coming off to 90 degrees to a filter right here that we plumb a MAF sensor in that tells the engine how much air is coming in, and the engine responds with what to do with it. Right now we can turn it on, but it'll only idle with somebody blowing into the MAF sensor, and that just, doesn't work. Well, what have we got? We have a LS3 inside of a 240SX, and it's coming together real nicely. We are nearing the end. Once we get that intake in, we should have this car running, good to go. We actually neglected to order a intake, minor oversight, with our kit from Fueled Racing, but they are sending one out and it should be here shortly, and then that's the entire kit. New additions, we have this Mishimoto Radiator. It's a KA24 radiator with a larger core, I believe, two 12-inch electric fans back there, and not bad clearance between that and the engine, which is nice. Thing that of note that other 240 LS builds have already addressed is the upper radiator hose needs a provision for a steam port, which is this guy. These engines build up steam in the heads, and that's where it gets plumbed into in the radiator right there. This is our temporary catch can, classic 240 trick. We're going to get a official catch can, and we have plenty of space to mount it in this engine bay. There's lots of room. Not everything's finalized yet. We still got to run a few things. We've already built a bracket. Mark built a bracket for this fuse box, relay box here. Where else? A guy by the name of Alex, local guy, has a shop called L-Spec. He's helped us out with the wiring that I might have screwed up royally, but we'll get to that later. Yeah, it was a royal screw up, and he came through, helped us fix it, and the interior is looking quite beautiful. We haven't retained a lot of features of the interior like air conditioning or a stereo, but we put them back in so it looks stock when you get up close. You can't see, there's no light. I'll have to grab a light to show you, but I'll do that in a bit. The exhaust is built underneath. This stand takes forever to lift, or else I'd show it to you. It's a temporary thing for the time being. Mark fabbed that up, and that'll get us rolling, and we'll probably come back to that later. This is the only sticker on the rear, GM Performance. The rest are on the buckets, which is pretty cool. This thing will be nice because from a distance it looks real ratty, looks like your typical roadkill car, and then when you get close, when the hood's on, you go, oh wow, they got Brembos under that thing. They got some serious tire. That's 9 inches of wide of tire on the front. Oh, that sounds different too when it idles. Must be a V8. That'll be a pretty cool thing to do. The really neat thing that we have that I alluded to briefly was our race pack. Race pack is, we've used their testing equipment for testing cars for years at Motor Trend. Let me get this out of the way, get some more light in here. We've used Race Pack's hardware for years, testing for Motor Trend. A lot of their data acquisition stuff's really neat. Drag racers use it, it's really durable, and what's it called? Tractor pullers use it, so it's very durable. The cool thing is it didn't replace, I had to custom fit it. But this guy here, or this guy right here, is our new dash, which I will turn on now. Maybe. I got the wheels locked. There we go. Fix the wheel lock. And there is our new gauge and dash. Full-on digital display, fully customizable, super, super, super cool. So there's a GPS antenna on the roof, and the dash can log with an SD card that you slide in right there. Logs everything that you'd get on GPS. Also logs all the sensors you have plugged into the dash. Now, the cool thing about this E-Rod drivetrain is that it comes with part of the wiring harness, which is basically all plug and play, by the way. Really cool how easy it is to put that wiring harness in there. There's an OBD2 port on the wiring harness, and so we plumbed that into the interior. We plugged in the race pack, and we can pull all the sensors off the engine. So water temp, inlet air temperature, every sensor you could think of, throttle position, tach, whatever, blah blah blah. We can pull that and display it wherever we want on this dash, which is really cool. Currently, You can have preset pages, 4 pages, so you could have a street setup, a road race setup, a drag race setup, a whatever setup, and you can program everyone for it to be whatever. I have it set up right now. This is sort of the street setup where we have the tack on top, a mile an hour on the top left, water temp on the bottom left, fuel in the middle, trip on the bottom right, odometer on the right, and then satellites, the big 8 right there. That's how many satellites are in range. Once we get the car rolling, that changes to gear selection. So you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on there, which is really cool. Like I said, it's all GPS, and that, or at least the positioning is GPS. It's a 4 Hertz GPS system, and that gives some cool functionalities. I switched to the next page with these buttons that I built on the dash. So this is the road race setup. On the far right, you can see we have lap. So when you're driving around a race course, you can actually hit a button, set a start-stop line, and once you go around it over and over again, you'll see your lap time. I mean, that's really cool. I've also added inlet air temperature. You keep seeing oil pressure flash because that's a warning that I've configured to set up to display when the oil temperature is low. That big red light that's bright there, that comes on when there's an oil temperature or oil pressure warning. Sorry, oil pressure warning. When the oil pressure gets too low, light comes on. It's kind of an issue with these LS engines that we're really going to look into. You can program the warnings to do whatever you want for fuel, for whatever. There's also shift lights that you can't really see because everything's so bright, but there's shift lights right there that are also programmable. For extra safety, we have an auxiliary oil pressure gauge on the right that also has an alarm on it. As you can tell, I'm pretty concerned about oil pressure. It's a pretty big issue. You don't want to nuke your engine because you're being careless or anything. Let me get a light and I'll show you guys how the interior looks. I'm particularly proud of that because we may have a roadkill sticker, but we're not going full roadkill. You never ever go full roadkill. Just remember that. This should work. So, a couple issues with the interior. As you probably remember, the shifter on this T56 Super Magnum sits really far forward. So, what we're able to do is we're able to use all of the stock components just by cutting a little flap in the back here for the bracket that we made to fit over it. It felt really bad hacking this dash because it was so clean and so perfect, and it's probably going to make a lot of 240 guys cringe, but if they aren't cringing already because the LS is in there, I don't really know. You know, shifter position's really nice. This shifter looks kind of dopey, but it actually feels really good in practice. Reverse is going to be a bit difficult to get into. We have to think of a solution for a reverse lockout switch that allows you to get into reverse a little bit easier. You can sort of muscle it, but it's a little bit difficult for the time being. Here you can see the buttons. Maybe you can't really see them. There you can see them. These are the buttons for controlling the race pack right here. They both have different features depending on what you're doing on the system. I basically took out the spare change holder on the dash, put those in, put a piece of metal in there and put those in, and that's how they work. So the whole thing looks really clean, which is really cool with the exception of the smaller diameter steering wheel and of course the Chevy Performance logo on the shifter. But that's all that stuff is really, really neat. What else is there? We've moved the battery. We relocated the battery to the trunk on the right. That should offset, I guess the logic there was it should offset the weight of the driver when they're inside. But we'll have to get this thing on the scales to find out if that actually worked or not. And what else? Well, that's kind of it. Once we get that intake in, we'll be able to finish the plumbing for the canister. As you can see, it's all kind of loose and looks terrible right now because we want to leave all that stuff loose so we can cut it when the intake comes in, because that filter's going to sit right here. We still have a couple more grounding issues to work on, a couple more wire location issues to think about. But other than that, things are looking pretty great. I absolutely cannot wait to drive this thing because we've been working feverishly on it for the past 3 weeks, pretty much non-stop. 10-hour days for, 7 days a week. It's pretty much been the name of the game. It's interesting, the engine and transmission were really easy to get in the car, but everything else took a lot of time, sometimes because that's just how these things go, sometimes because I may have made a big mistake. But we'll talk about that later. Anyway, we'll get this thing rolling, and we'll definitely show you guys what that looks and sounds like. I can't wait, and I'm sure you can't either.